Thank you, Steve. We really appreciate the insight and kind of that big picture view from the top. Now we're going to start to kind of focus in a little bit more on technology programs, and for that, I'd like to welcome Therese Griebel. Therese is the Deputy Associate Administrator for Programs in NASA's Space Technology Mission Directorate, and Therese provides executive leadership and management of the technology programs within Spacetech, which has had an annual budget of annual investment of around $600 million. So welcome, Therese.
Good morning. It's a little daunting to follow Steve Jerzyk. He kind of ran this mission directorate and was very, very excellent at doing so. So moving right into it, as was discussed earlier, driving exploration, NASA technology is a priority. So within the Space Technology Mission Directorate, our objective is to advance technologies to enable our agency's high priority missions as well as national priorities. And our tagline is technology drives exploration. And we do this in our mission directorate by sparking innovation, trying to get the young people and new innovative concepts kind of moving. We also engage with universities, some of the brightest people in the nation. We are enabling exploration, and we work very hard to make sure that we embrace competition, and all with an eye towards investing in America. All of what we do is to enable and invest in America. And so this is a common chart that we show when we're talking about Space Technology Mission Directorate. We refer to this as our pipeline. So within our Mission Directorate, we invest in technologies all the way from the lowest TRL, our early stage innovation category, which includes innovative advanced concepts, our space technology research grants, and we also have some small stipends that we allow for centers to advance some technologies. We also then we work on the Valley of Death, I think it's called a lot of the times, in our tech maturation program. It's a significant amount of money, it's a lot of stuff, and what our objective is to pull those things that are innovative and exciting, that can hopefully even leapfrog what existing technology can do in order to enable missions that we can't currently close for, that are priorities for this agency or the nation. And then as we move through the pipeline, as things become mature enough, we move into technology demonstrations. And we have a technology demonstration mission that follows our normal 7120.5 rigorous standards for advancing technologies. But we also, as the general mentioned earlier, we have a small spacecraft program and a flight opportunities program. And both of those programs allow for industry or universities or even internal payloads to be demonstrated in a relevant environment. So flight opportunities is suborbital platforms, and we put out calls for people to propose to be able to use one of these platforms in order to demonstrate their technologies. And our small spacecraft program is for demonstrations more on orbit. We also run the partnerships and tech transfer for the agency, and including prizes and challenges. And we have an iTech program, which is different than what most people are used to, and that takes entrepreneurs who are working on technologies for terrestrial applications and brings together those kind of entrepreneurs that have technologies that could hopefully, if developed, solve some of our problems for future use. And they bring in investors to kind of look at them and understand them, and kind of a shotgun marriage. If there's any industry or any angel investors or any kind of investors who want to invest in these technologies, then hopefully those technologies will be invested in without the government's money and advanced to a point where they'll be ready for us to just buy it off the shelf. And a significant amount of money has been raised for that. It's not NASA's money, and technologies are being advanced, and hopefully at some point they'll be relevant to what our space needs are. And finally, but not least, of course, we run the SBIR and STTR program within Space Technology Mission Directorate. So I have a couple of charts on key accomplishments for FY18, and this is FY18 only. And I won't go into details because I only have 20 minutes total. But some of them were really exciting. And so one of the first ones I do want to talk about is ISARA, which was the Integrated Solar Array and Reflect Array. It was a small spacecraft where we demonstrated 100 megabits per second RF downlink from a small spacecraft, from a CubeSat. And so the state of the art was 9 kilobits per second. So we went from 9 kilobits to 100 megabits in one test flight. And the throttle, like where it really got stuck, was the ground station. We probably could have demonstrated higher data rate downlink. So I thought that was just a huge demonstration, advancing significantly the capability, tested it and did it fairly rapidly on a small spacecraft. Our sextant was an X-ray navigation, autonomous X-ray navigation in space. It's a payload on the International Space Station, and we were able to demonstrate X-ray autonomous navigation. We completed 3 separate entities have completed their first stage of in-space robotic manufacturing and assembly, and that included their design, development, and demonstration of different in-space robotic technology capabilities, and they've submitted proposals for potential flight demonstration selection. Solar electric propulsion, we're advancing the electric propulsion system that is currently baselined for the power propulsion element that will be a major element of the gateway that you'll see in a little bit. And kilopower is, we actually did a ground test of a 1 kilowatt nuclear reactor. It's a fairly simple design that we think could be developed to a point of launch and demonstration on the moon to enable longer stays on the moon in the near term, and then scaled up so that we can actually enable long-term stays for what would be needed for a human mission to Mars. Additional accomplishments, our laser communications relay has the demonstration completed their system integration and testing, and it's awaiting a launch vehicle availability, and so it's hopefully going to launch in 2019. The Deep Space Optical Comm and other programs like RestoreL have completed some of their main reviews, gate reviews, and we have instituted some inaugural space technology research institutes. One's CUBES, which is a little bit misleading. It sounds like CubeSats, but it's actually about a utilization of biological engineering in space. And we have a second one that is US Comp, which is about developing lightweight materials for enabling space missions. Our Centennial Challenges program awarded over $1.5 million of prizes in 2018. And last, again, but not least, we completed our SBIR STTR Industry Day, where over 450 innovators from across the country participated in the workshop. I think that this is publicly available. I've seen it on websites. This is the exploration campaign that we talk about, and it involves multiple elements. It's the sustainment of the International Space Station low Earth orbit capability, as well as the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter that launched in 2009 and gathered data about the surface of the moon. And as we move to the right, the expectation of the Orion spacecraft flight demo in 2019, including the power and propulsion element that's being developed right now with a scheduled launch in 2022, which is the first element that will be used for the gateway, and the Orion crewed exploration mission, which is also scheduled for the early 2020s. You start looking at, in addition, we're doing some lunar technology development, or part of the exploration campaign is to go to the surface of the moon. Steve mentioned the CLIPS, which is the Commercial Lunar Payload Services contract, which I think it's scheduled to be, the awards are scheduled to be announced or selections are scheduled to be announced in December, but I think they're way ahead of schedule, so you might see it a lot sooner than that. And we plan to then evolve into doing mid-sized landers and ultimately human-scale landers for the surface of the moon. So we took this chart and overlaid how investments in the Space Technology Mission Directorate have been invested in over the past several years and how they are going to support the vision that this administration has for getting humans to the moon, moving forward from the moon. And so this kind of categorizes things, and I won't go into all the details, but there's definitely a lot of precision landing, there's a lot of autonomous systems, electric propulsion, potentially, and then when you look to Mars, we're investing in developing nuclear thermal propulsion and other communications and propulsion systems, et cetera. So my point on this chart is there's a significant amount of technology investment that under the executive leadership of Steve Jurczyk and Jim Ryder and others, and the investment and prioritization that's been done with our principal technologists and the leads in the agency with technology capability, in concert with understanding what the industry is doing, we've been able to identify and prioritize investments by NASA to advance technologies to make us ready to be able to enable those missions that this administration is excited to execute. SBIR, I believe that Jen's probably going to be talking in more detail about this, so I probably won't get into too much detail on this chart. The blue bars on this chart show where all of our submission periods are. That's when industry or other elements, small businesses can propose. You can see the map in the lower left-hand corner that shows anything that has a colored state. Those are states that have awards from SBIR. So if you're from a state that has never achieved any awards, we'd love to hear from you because we'd love to see some good proposals. The more diversity we get, the better the outcomes are for us and for some of the objectives of SBIR and STTR, which is to advance the economic capability and viability within aerospace for us. Coming in FY19 and 20, I'll just cover a couple things because I know Jen's going to talk more, but our topics will be increasingly more about exploration. So those focus areas are a little bit more vectored towards exploration campaign technology, and that's not a totality statement because our Science Mission Directorate and our Aeronautics Mission Directorate still are going to be focusing their priorities on their technology priorities, but Space Technology Mission Directorate and Human Exploration are going to be focusing more on the exploration campaign technology areas. And there are several activities that under Jen's leadership are going to be enabling hopefully a lot more success, higher rate of success of companies being able to get to delivering products for use in aerospace community. And that includes making Phase 2 sequential awards as a pilot under STTR. We're going to provide business assistance to Phase 2 awardees to help them get a little stronger relative to how to get from technology investments to actual utilization. And we did get an extension of the authority of the 3% administration funding, and we're going to be allocating that towards continuing I-Corps and CCRPPs. And so I'm going to let Jen talk more about those. But for me, those are all very exciting things because we're not just about augmenting NASA's budget to do technology development to meet our needs. We are really about sustainment of the nation's capability in aerospace industry and growing those businesses internal to the United States. So we had a couple of we have several exciting SBIR and STTR technology infusion examples, and so we've picked two for this briefing. Paragon Space Development Corporation, located in Tucson, developed a system to increase the overall ability to convert urine to water. And so right now, so they were awarded an SBIR to advance their technology, and we are currently planning on launching a demonstration for the International Space Station to validate that this capability will increase the ISS recovery from approximately 80% to 98%. And that is obviously, mass is key. Delivering consumables is challenging, so the most we can reuse in space is very important, and this will help us close some of our Mars missions a little easier. And the scroll compressor, which was an award to a company called Air Squared. They developed the scroll compressor under some SBIR funding, and currently one of their design for a vacuum pump, compressor operated as a pump, is part of a MOXIE demonstration. It was planned to be launched on Mars 2020, and that will take CO2 from the atmosphere on Mars and be able to convert into carbon monoxide and oxygen. And that's hopefully in an opportunity to try to demonstrate that we can actually convert in situ resources for what we need for propellants and other things once we get to Mars. Proprietary technologies for flight demonstration. Steve talked about how we're going to have these commercial lunar payloads, solicitations where we're going to have the ability to put things on the surface of the moon. We're going to move into mid-sized landers and ultimately into, in the later 2020s, we're going to move into higher mass landing capability. And what we see from STM, from my mission director from Space Technologies, some of the technologies that we anticipate will be demonstrated on some of those landers would include precision landing, which is going to be actually necessary for some of the later missions, high-performance space computing, which is being developed right now in our game-changing program, and it's hopefully going to increase the amount of computing power and hopefully replace the RAD 750. Cryofluid management demonstrations, which are going to require power, so we're going to probably couple that with a kilopower experiment, and hopefully be able to show how we can mine regolith and be able to convert it into meaningful elements as a demonstration on Mars. And so that's, I'm sorry, not cryofluid management, kilopower with ISRU to be able to mine the regolith. Cryofluid management is going to be necessary in order to get the human lander scale systems to be able to land on the surface of the moon and be able to be sustainable. Public-private partnerships, we have a couple of major factors that we work on specifically for public-private partnerships. One is tipping point, and the objective is to increase the focus on collaboration. So if commercial entities are developing things for their own commercial use and they just need a little bit of extra funding and their use is aligned with what our needs are, then we do assessments and evaluation. It requires a minimum contribution from industry of 25%, but we provide some funding and other types of resources to hopefully get something over the edge so that it can go into production and be utilized. Our announcement of collaborative opportunities is a little bit different. This is an opportunity for an entity and industry to be able to identify a NASA center where there might be some subject matter expertise or facilities that they could utilize to advance what it is that they're trying to accomplish, and we provide those facility utilization as well as some of those subject matter experts. Some of the industry and other government agency participants in exploration technology who we partner with are kind of shown on this chart. And this chart, I think, is very telling about how we work with industry and universities to ensure that we are making sure that we are aligned with what their business cases are and how we can collaborate so that we're not using all of NASA's money to do things that are already being done for the purpose of commercial objectives. So within FY18 alone, we evaluated 3,000 proposals. We selected greater than 700. We instituted over 300 university partnerships with more than 120 universities. We had greater than 60 projects leading to a flight demonstration. We have greater than 1,000 projects actively advancing technology. We've shepherded over 1,900 software releases, and we have engaged with over 400 industry collaboration activities. Since 2011, greater than 850 transitions have occurred from technologies developed in Space Technology Mission Directorate into use. And that's all I have. If you have any questions, you can find me throughout today or tomorrow, and thank you very much.